Time is 12:10 p.m. and we're back on the record.
Mr. Steinberg, do you know who Judd McGee is?
I'm not familiar with Judd McGee.
Do you know who Adam Small is?
Adam Small, I am aware. I know who he is, although I don't know him.
Do you know who Adam Small is? In what reference do you know of Mr. Small?
Objection. Form.
He is the accountant to whom we referred you after Liz Dunn no longer worked for Nick Moneros.
Do you know whether, when, and if Elizabeth Dunn worked for Nick Moneros at this point in time? It's just June of 2011.
I believe that that was around the time that Liz had resigned.
Do you, having read through this, do you know what these emails are about?
Not really.
Do you know the difference between the C and S corporation as it related to Nick Moneros too?
No specific knowledge on that.
Do you know if there had been an election of whether it be a C or an S corporation?
Objection. The witness has already answered that question.
No,
sir.
I'm not aware.
Actually, it was a different question. Do you know if there had been an election
No,
as to C or
no
an S
knowledge on
corporation?
that.
I think I was talking about Michelle. I think if there had been,
Do you know if there had been an election as to whether it was a C or an S corporation?
I have no personal knowledge.
Do these look like emails that I would send in your estimation?
Objection. Not really sure why why you're asking the witness that question, sir. But
Does this reflect my level of expertise to the best of your knowledge?
again, Mr. Steinberg is not here to express an opinion as to your level of expertise. He's here to testify as to the facts of this case or what. Who knows, sir?
You can answer the question.
I would say that this reflects the typical standard of knowledge which you displayed when you and I worked together.
Thank you. Oh, hold on. You had the paper. Let me paper clip that one. Or is it already? That one already has. This is Exhibit 28. Steinberg, Exhibit 28.
How many pages is it, sir?
It's going to be on 2 pages. Do you know who E.J. Gregory is?
No, I don't.
Do you know who Symetra Capital is?
No, I don't.
Do you know who Doug Nickerson is?
No, I don't.
Do you know who Northmark Capital is?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Were you at all involved in the most recent refinance of the Dunedin property?
Objection form.
Not at all.
Is it fair to say that by the point in time that the Symetra loan was refinanced, you were no longer working for Nick Moneros too?
Objection. He's already testified he doesn't know what symmetric is, sir.
Yeah,
Let me finish the question. Is it fair to say that by the time that we finished the loan with Symetra, you were no longer working for Nick Moneros too?
Objection, sir. He testified he doesn't know what Symetra is.
I was going by the date of this email. I was no longer working for the company.
Do you remember us having a discussion as to me hiring a new attorney in Connecticut?
Form.
Yes, I remember you telling me that you had hired a firm to help with that refi.
Do you know what firm that was?
I don't think you told me at the time the firm, but I believe subsequently I received a request from that firm to deliver some closing docket, the documents from our previous financing.
Does the name Sid Smith and Whitman Breed Abbott and Morgan sound familiar to you?
Sid Smith sounds familiar. I think that's who actually requested the documents. But I don't know what firm.
To the
that
best
was.
of your
To the best of
recollection.
my recollection, yes, sir.
So, is it fair to say that at this point you turned documents over to Sid Smith to help finalize the refinance for this loan extension from this loan from Symetra?
I don't think I delivered documents to her. And I'm trying to recall. I think I received the request from her, and I sought direction from Nick as to whether I could make the delivery. And eventually, the closing documents were delivered by me to Nick's attorney.
The closing documents?
The documents from the Sovereign Bank deal.
The previous
The previous
deal.
close. Correct.
Would it refresh your memory if Sid Smith also had those documents?
I'm glad she got them then.
That she
Okay.
would it refresh your
request-
memory if she received those documents from you?
I'm glad I did it. I just don't
Okay.
remember doing it.
All right. So you had discussions with them, and by this point in time, you and I were no longer speaking concerning the refinance.
Correct.
Just, were you ever told not to tell me about the being removed as an officer?
No.
Was there any reason that you didn't tell me?
I thought that you had been advised.
If I hadn't been advised, would that have changed how we negotiated any of those deals?
Form.
I don't think so, because we continued to work on the transaction.
Had I developed a relationship with contacts at the companies and banks?
Form.
You were the on-the-ground person.
Did I usually drop the checks off to pay personally, to pay the bills for either Burger Singerman or Adorno and Yoss? Did I usually drop those checks off personally?
I believe you did.
And would I usually drop those checks off and we'd have the office meetings?
And we would have chats.
Yes, it was just like today, another little chat. And then I'm going to reserve my right to recall you, should need be, subject to a full formal subpoena issued from the state of Connecticut through, are you in Palm Beach County?
Yes, sir.
Through Palm Beach County Court. And I'm finished. You can cross-examine the witness.
I need 2 minutes, Mr. Steinberg, if
okay,
that's
sure.
okay with you, sir. I just need 2 minutes to
ahead.
digest your testimony. And
You,
We're off the record at 12:18. Time is 12:23 PM and we're back on the record.
Mr. Steinberg, do you know John Tessie?
yes, I do.
How do you know John Tessie?
John Tessie is, I believe, Nick's attorney up in Connecticut. And yeah, he contacted me around the time that I resigned from Nick Monero's.
Is it your understanding that John Tessie, did he request the documents from you?
Form.
I believe at the end I was told to send the copies of the closing documents for the Sovereign Bank refi to John.
Did he represent himself as Mr. Monero's attorney?
Yes, I believe he did.
Did he represent himself as the attorney for Nick Maneros too?
Well, I took it as one and the same.
So
Yes.
was it your understanding that he was the attorney for Nick Maneros too?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. All finished. I reserve the same as before.
Mr. Steinberg, thank you for being here today, sir. I'm going to try and get you in and out as
okay.
quickly as possible. I just have a few follow-up questions for you. I believe you testified, sir, that Liz Dunn resigned. Is that?
Hold on a second. Have we been on the record this whole time?
Yes, we
We've
have.
been back the whole time. Okay.
I believe you testified Liz Dunn resigned, sir. Is that correct?
Yes, I think so.
Do you know when she resigned?
I believe that it was around the same time as when I resigned.
Do you know why she resigned?
She resigned because she did not have confidence in the numbers which she was asked to review.
Okay, let's just take that in two parts, sir. The numbers she was asked to review. What do you mean by that?
I believe she told me that she did not trust the veracity of some of the things that she was being told
Do you know who she was being told?
from Mr. Fetcher.
Do you know what she was being told?
No, I didn't get into that amount of detail.
How did you learn of that, sir?
I believe she called me up prior to formally resigning to tell me that she was going to resign and that I should know about that.
What did you say to her, sir, if anything?
Well, I was pretty shocked to hear that because it was so many things. This was news to me. We discussed a little bit of why why this happened, and we really did. She did not want to talk too much about it, but she was concerned that she was getting drawn into something that could affect her professional credentials as an accountant.
Veracity of numbers, sir. I believe that was your testimony. Can you-
Veracity of information.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
Veracity of information. Can you explain what you mean by that, sir?
I think that I can't exactly recall. As I said, she was reluctant really to discuss it with me, and I respected that.
And around this time, sir, I believe it was your testimony that you, at some point, resigned as well.
Correct.
Why did you resign, sir?
I resigned because my work or my ability to perform my duties as a corporate attorney for Nick Maneros II was compromised and had degenerated to delivering messages back and forth between Nick and Arik and Nick, and emotions were starting to run very high. And I certainly did not want to advocate on one on behalf of the other, and vice versa. I also was unaware of this meeting and this resolution or this paper writing that had taken place last October, or October 2010. Came as a complete surprise to me, and it was difficult getting instructions, quite frankly. So the best thing for me, in my opinion, at that point was to resign. Arik, I think, had already indicated that he was getting his own attorney, and he recommended that Nick get an attorney, and Of course, I could not represent Nick, so it was time for a graceful exit.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to take us back in time and talk about the North Carolina property, sir. When I say North Carolina property, sir, do you know what that means?
Yes, it's the Pinehurst property.
Okay. What, if any, involvement did you have in that property, sir?
I represented Nick Maneros II in the purchase and financing of the property.
Did you represent anyone else other than Nick Maneros II in the purchasing and financing?
No.
At that point in time, sir, were you ever informed by Mr. Fetcher or anyone else that he had an interest in that property, sir?
No, I was not.
Mr. Steinberg, I'd like to just refer back to Exhibits 14 and 15, sir. May I take those back? Or do you have the originals, or does Mr. Fetcher have the originals?
She has the originals.
Okay.
I have the originals from... 14 and 15, which documents are we looking at?
The Fifth Amendment and the guarantee, sir.
The Fifth Amendment and the guarantee?
Yes. Sorry, I don't want to mess these up. I'm just trying to get to...
I was putting them all up when you guys were calling, I'm sure I have them all.
I see 41 and then I see 10.
Well, no, because they're paper clips, so when he's flipping the pages around like that,
Trying not to.
they'll get
There's 14.
mixed up.
Okay. 15 is one page, right?
Yes, that's a one page.
Mr. Steinberg, I'm going to give you the originals, sir, okay? Mr. Steinberg, I believe you testified with respect to Exhibit 14, sir, that you prepared that document, sir?
Yes.
And do you see the date on that document, sir?
Yes.
Sir, can you turn your attention to Exhibit 15, sir?
Yes.
Did you have any participation in procuring this document?
I believe that I prepared the guarantee.
Do you recall when you prepared it, sir?
Well, it was sometime after the lease negotiation was.
Do you remember why you prepared it?
I prepared it as sort of a carryover to what Arik and I had discussed, that as far as I was concerned, they only had the covenant of Ocean Optics, Inc. on the lease, and that if they wanted a guarantor, this document in and of itself would not bind the parent to any covenant that had been made in there.
Did you have any discussions about the enforceability of this document, sir, with Mr. Fetcher?
Enforceability of
This guarantee, sir.
This
It's Exhibit
guarantee?
15.
Yes, I was concerned that it was done after the fact, but it was better than nothing.
When you say done after the fact, what do you mean by that, sir?
Well, it really should have been done at the time that the lease amendment had been signed.
And why is that, sir?
There's a stronger case for consideration having exchanged for the delivery of the guarantee.
What, if anything, did the tenant provide as consideration for this guarantee, sir?
I'm not, well, I did not have any direct dealings with Halma, so, Arik had come to me and said that he spoke to Halma, and Halma was willing to provide its guarantee.
As you sit here today, sir, do you know if there was any documentation prepared other than this guarantee with respect to Halma?
No, I'm not aware of any.
Mr. Steinberg, what type of company was Nick Manero's 2 Inc., sir?
Well, it was a corporation.
And as a corporation, sir, how would the corporation take corporate acts?
It's buying through its directors.
And was that the case for this company, sir? When I say this company, I mean Nick Manero's 2 Inc., sir?
Yes, Nick would sign as director of pretty much all corporate action that had to be taken. He would also sign as president. And as I said before, that would be at the end of the deal. But typically I would explain the deal to Nick and tell him the signature is needed and why it's needed, and prepare the resolutions or go through the resolutions with him. And that's how a corporation works.
Did you ever have any discussions with Mr. Manero about Mr. Fetcher's abilities as an employee of the company?
I believe I told him that the deals that Arik and I had worked on were done competently, and that Arik generally had been doing a good job.
Did Mr. Manero ever express any concern as to Mr. Fetcher's capabilities?
He probably did from time to time, but I'm not too sure whether they were specifically related to the deal as opposed to a general observations.
Did Mr. Manero ever indicate to you a lack of trust in Mr. Fetcher?
Yes.
When, sir?
Well, certainly towards the end, leading up to his asking me to prepare the resolution removing Arik as the secretary-treasurer.
When you say towards the end, sir, can you...
I'm sorry. Up until the month in 2010, and I can't remember when I prepared the resolution removing Arik as a secretary-treasurer.
And before that, sir, did he express any concern about a lack of trust in Mr. Fetcher?
Yes.
Can you tell me?
I can't, other than I'm trying to remember specific instances, but none come to mind. But my recollection is that Nick did on several occasions talk about that.
I'd like to just go back to Exhibit 18, sir.
Which document? And please, be careful with the original.
Doing my best I can, Mr. Fetcher. They're not stapled. I'm doing the best I can, sir.
I'm worried about the people actually scanning.
Maybe when we get out of here, maybe we can ask one of these folks if they can help us staple them to make sure that they stay in order.
14 and 15 then?
Yes, please, sir.
Actually, the production department, if the legal services requested, it appreciates them being stapled. Yeah.
Okay.
Which document is
We're
this?
going to start with 18, sir.
Which is titled what?
That's the
So written consent.
For Mr. Steinberg or for Mr. Bassett?
Sir, it's Exhibit 18. It's labeled Nick Manero's 2 Inc. Written consent in lieu of a special meeting of sole director dated June 10, 2010. Mr. Steinberg,
Yes, sir.
if I am asking you a question again, I apologize, but it's important I do this, sir. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what is it?
It is a resolution I prepared for Nick Monero's signature, removing Arik as a officer of the company and also appointing myself as the registered agent for the corporation in Florida.
Is this a document that would typically be prepared in the ordinary course of your company's business, sir?
In the ordinary course, if directed to do so, correct, it would be.
And was this document prepared in the ordinary course of your company's business?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and sir, would you know if you would have would you have a copy of this document in your files?
Yes, I would.
And where would those files be located?
With me.
Do you know why this document was prepared?
It was prepared because Nick had lost confidence in Arik.
How did you learn that, sir?
Through a number of telephone conversations that Nick had with me.
What did he say to you, sir?
He said that basically it was a lack of trust, and was concerned that Arik's certain expenses that he may have taken in the company and justification for certain things he had done in the name of the company. I believe there was a stock account which Nick did not believe had not authorized, and non-permitted use of the American Express card for trips. Just a general recollection.
After you prepared this document, who, if anyone, did you send it to?
I sent it to Nick for signature.
Okay. Do you recognize, if I were to ask you, do you recognize that signature at the bottom, sir, independently?
Yes, that's Nick's, that junior. I recognize that.
Okay. Next document, sir, if you can turn to Exhibit 21. Oh, I didn't give it to you yet, so I apologize. Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes.
Can you tell me what it is?
This is another resolution that Nick instructed me to prepare, appointing Jim Bassett as Secretary and Treasurer.
Can we go off the record here for a second? Let me just ask you something. You have the...
Time is 12:42 and I'm off the video record. Time is 12:42, we're back on the record.
Could you just read back my last question so that I know where I was?
Can you tell me what it is? You said this is a resolution. Can you tell me what it is?
Okay, it's easier if I just started. Mr. Steinberg, do you recognize this
I
document?
do recognize it.
What do you recognize it to be, sir?
This is a resolution that Nick asked me to prepare, which appoints Jim Bassett as Secretary Treasurer of the corporation.
Is it in the ordinary course of your company's business to prepare such a document, sir?
Yes, it is, if so directed.
Was it prepared in the ordinary course of your company's business?
Yes, it was.
Can you tell me why Mr. Monero asked you to prepare this?
I believe he wanted Jim to be able to take certain actions on behalf of the corporation in his absence, or together with him.
Do you recognize the signature at the bottom, sir?
Yes, I do.
Whose signature do you recognize it to be?
That's Nick Monero's, Jr.
I have no further questions for you, Mr. Steinberg. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I was just going to redirect or ask you to explain something. You had mentioned veracity of information was the reason that Elizabeth Dunn had told you she was leaving the company, she questioned the veracity of information that I had
Yes.
given. Would it be fair to say that you also questioned the veracity of information that I had given you?
I did-
Specifically concerning?
Yeah, I did not question any of the legal things that we had been involved in, but I was not a recipient of the information you were giving Elizabeth Dunn, so it's two different things.
Did you question the veracity of my statement that I had purchased North Carolina and placed $500,000 in the company?
I didn't question it. I expressed surprise at it, and I couldn't form an opinion whether you had or not. It's just I received it as information.
Once you received it as information, did it confirm the truth of my verbal statements to you?
Okay, there was, you had told me earlier in 2010 that you had this interest, which I thought to be a bit unusual, given that I had only been aware of Nick Monero's 2 being the purchaser, and then you presented the following year the minutes of this, or this resolution, or the writing, where the $500,000 was stated. I don't think I considered whether this was true or not. The document sort of speaks for itself, but again, it's not. Whether I thought it was true or not I don't think entered into my mind. The fact that it existed was instructive.
You also stated previously that in 2010, as a result of Nick's mistrust, I believe, I don't want to mischaracterize your words, but as a result of the mistrust, you prepared, I believe it's Exhibit 21, removing me as an officer.
Correct.
And placing yourself as a registered agent for the corporation.
Correct.
You sure it's 21, Mr. Fetcher?
It might be 19, but it's the statement you had. I don't
believe it's 21, sir. I think it might be 15.
I have it as Exhibit 46 from the original. Do you recollect, do you remember that document?
Yes, it's the resolution. I know.
The first resolution?
Correct.
As a result of his mistrust of me, he signed the first resolution in 2010.
Correct.
Was I doing the negotiations for the Dunedin lease extension in 2010?
Yes, you were.
Would you expect someone to do the entire lease negotiation at that point in time, absent the owner's trust?
Objection. You're asking him to...
I guess in my own mind, you were instructed to complete the negotiations and finish what you had started. I didn't spend any time thinking about that.
To your knowledge and your recollection, are there any of the former colleagues that we worked with still employed by Nick Monero's 2? And by colleagues, I include, just to verify, include all those people, accountants, lawyers that we had worked with.
Well, certainly there's nobody at Berger Singerman. Stephen Gorelick, my partner, is not doing work. I am not doing work. Robert Benella's not doing work. Elizabeth Dunn's not doing work. I'm not sure if Adam Small is still doing work or not. I'm trying to think who else was involved. I think that's about it that I'm aware of.
So
And Jim Bassett, I think, is still working.
Oh, the people that I worked with, are any of them still connected to the company?
No.
Had there been any problems in our relationships prior to that 2010 discussion?
In your and my relationship?
In mine, in your relationship, or to your knowledge, mine and any of the other people that we worked with?
Form.
I don't think there was ever a problem with our relationship.
Had there been any problems in the running of the company prior to that point in time?
Problems in running from what I saw, we did the deals and we concluded the deals. The running of the company sort of ran itself once the deal was put in place, short of doing the lease amendments and things like that.
So once the work was done, the company could basically, it was an easier company to manage?
Form.
Was it? Is that your statement?
Well, my statement is that once the investments were put in place, there wasn't much property management function needed to my sense, and of course you hired a property manager for the Houston office building. So you had single tenant buildings, and those are typically easier to manage than a multi-tenant building.
You bring up Texas again. Do you remember that deal at all?
I have a general knowledge of it, sure.
Do we have to set up were those LLCs?
Yes, we set up Texas LLCs as the purchaser.
Was that Nick Monero's too?
No, it's not Nick Monero's too. There were that 1031.
Would you like some water?
No, I'm fine. That 1031 exchange was from two Connecticut entities, Monero's Realty Inc. and Monero's Inc. One of those companies owned the majority of the interests of the property, of the restaurant property in Greenwich. So we replicated that structure in the Texas structure using Texas LLCs. And we set that up as a joint tenancy in order to abide by the requirements of the 1031.
Were you hired? Who hired you?
Who hired us? And initially back in 2005. I think that, well, I know that it was a referral from Michael Caldwell, Union Bank, and I believe you dropped by the office and sort of may have given us the sniff test at that point. So formally, I think we were hired by Nick, and you must have given us a good report.
Would it be fair to say that we were hired by Nick Monero's too?
Yes, that would be fair to say.
Was I working for Nick Monero's too?
At that point, yes.
Why were we doing work on Texas?
Well, Texas wasn't our initial engagement. Texas was 2007, so that was a couple of years later. We were doing work in Texas because Nick wanted to conclude a 1031 exchange.
Was I an employee of Monero's Inc.?
I don't know.
Did I do work on that
You
Texas
did. You
deal?
certainly did work. Yeah.
Is it fair to say that I did work for Monero's Inc.?
Yes.
Is it fair to say you did work for Monero's Inc.?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that we were paid and primarily working for Nick Monero's too?
Objection. He's already answered that, sir. He said he didn't know.
No, I don't know.
Do you know if Monero's Inc. had the same attorney as Nick Monero's too?
Form.
I am trying to. I don't think that I ever dealt with an attorney in Connecticut for the two Connecticut companies.
Do you know if there's an accountant for Monero's Inc.?
Form.
I believe it's Jim Bassett. I believe that Jim takes care of the Monero entities as a group.
Thank you. I'm finished.
Thank you, Mr. Stein.
Okay. Thank you all.
We're off the record at 12:54 p.m.
Thanks, Lori.
Okay, all right.
And even go Canucks, all that.